Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Through the Curtain. This is our third episode, and our guest this evening is going to be Damien Wayne. So, Damien, thanks for coming out and joining us. We do appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
The first thing I want to ask you is just give us about a 5-minute rundown of your career, because I know you've been doing this a long time.
Very, very long time, I would guess. I had a very late start. I didn't start training until I was 30 years old. For one, I was a baseball head growing up, played baseball for about 20-some-odd years, counting some adult league baseball. But so wrestling was always a dream, but I just kind of thought it's never going to happen. For one, back in the 80s, there weren't no small guys.
Yeah.
And so Luthez had a school in Norfolk, and I called him when I graduated. That was 1989. I called him on my graduation day about getting into school, and he's like, you got to weigh at least 200. I couldn't break 190, so I was like, that ain't happening. So, of course, just moved on with my life and got married at 25 and whatnot. But like I said, about 2001, I came across VCW on the internet. They were Virginia Championship Wrestling at the time, and I emailed the company, wasn't knowing who I was talking to, but just emailed the company and said, hey man, I don't care if I'm ring crew, referee, selling hot dogs, whatever, man, I just want to be a part of the business. You know, I was 7 years old and loving it to death. I want to be anything I can do part of the business. And they were like, it's funny you emailed us. This was November. We're opening a school, and it'll be starting in March of 2002. We have tryouts in January. So I went to trials at Middy's, Omni Hotel, Newport News. I was probably one of 27, 28 guys. And when they had us all in the ring and, of course, doing the, hey, I'm this, I'm that, da-da-da-da. Well, here I am 30 years old, and the next closest guy was 22. So I was at least 8 years older than everybody.
Right,
and I'm
right.
like, oh, yeah, this is going to work out real good. So they started. I made sure I was way back in the line so I could see what they were doing before anything. And I did backyard. I grew up on Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, Crockett Promotions. And our backyard was what we saw on TV. We were power slamming each other, suplexing each other on the grass.
Yep.
So I kind of learned how to bump, but it was on grass. So I saw them bumping, doing the whole cross the arms and crouching, and I was like, I can't do it like that in my head. So when it came to my turn, I'm like, can I kind of bump the way I feel comfortable bumping? You know, of course, I don't know like I do now, that you don't ask questions like that.
Right.
So,
You kind of leave that alone.
They were like, yeah, go ahead, man. So I did it, and I did a nice snap bump, clean as can be. Did a couple more, and Phil Brown and Preston Quinn were the two guys there running the camp. They were going to be the trainers, and Phil kept kind of staring a hole in me, and I'm like, fuck. We came to do a bumps again. I bumped really good. So they're like, all right, we're going to run the ropes. This is the hardest thing to teach guys, and this and that. And I guarantee you, one out of every two guys before me was either tripping, stumbling, falling through the ropes, something. And I got up there and did it. Did it perfect. I mean, Phil's just staring another hole through me. I'm like, man, I think I've done pissed these guys off. I'm like, and then he calls me over there. He's like, first he called PQ over to the corner. He was in the corner, and then he called me over there, and he's like, dude, you sure you ain't never trained before? And I was like, I swear to God, I've never. I mean, I used to go early to the Hampton Coliseum and see him put up the ring and tear it down. That's the closest, and he was like, it looks like you've been doing this thing for like 15 years. And I was like, no, but it's been a dream, so I'm planning on living it out. So started class, basically the same 20-some-odd guys, and not counting any of the talent that came weeks or whatever after me. Again, that 22-year-old guy was the next closest to me. Like, I was the only one to make it.
Really?
Only one. All of them dropped
awesome.
like flies.
Wow.
Now, the Chris Escobars and Mike Booths and Shane Falco, they came a couple of weeks afterwards. But, out of that initial class, so that made me feel good. But, finally broke in. They put me and Mike Booth together. We trained the last 4 months as a tag team. So they drilled that into us. They wanted us to be a tag team, and we broke in, tagged for about the first 6 years as the Old School Empire, and I loved it. I loved getting to experience tag team wrestling before singles, and compared to vice versa, it's kind of harder. But I loved it. We were right on the verge of having a TNA tryout, and he went over the top rope in North Carolina for crew the wrong way. And when I turned around and saw him coming up on the floor, but rising above the apron, his shoulder was about 7-8 inches lower. So he separated his shoulder and was out for like almost 8 months. So that's when my singles career kind of. But I wasn't expecting anything. I was being here and maybe a couple of shows in North Carolina I was married with kids, but just doing this local thing was great. I was being a wrestler, and but the more I heard my name, the more people started talking about me. I was like, I guess they think I'm actually pretty good at this. So why? And I was the only one not traveling that much.
Right.
PQ, Booth, and Sean Denny, Sean Lee at the time, and all them guys were doing the North Carolina trips and stuff, and I wasn't. And then it kind of flip-flopped. And I was the only one in the area traveling everywhere, and everybody was staying pretty close to home. But so I went any and everywhere I could get a book, and I didn't care if it was a crap show or what. And that's how I think I got to experience everything.
Sure. Right.
And I tell guys all the time, man, traveling is not just to get your name out there. There's so much more to learn about this business if you're going to different, because every crowd's different. Every locker room's different.
Yeah.
So,
No doubt.
But that's it took off, and then I hustled. I hoarded myself out. I rode the roads. I traveled, hustled my butt, and I guess I say I got lucky, especially because of my age. Not too many guys. I was getting a lot of my opportunities around 07 and 08, so I was probably about 37, 38 then. Doing a lot of Ring of Honor and WWE stuff, but of course I knew my age was not going to allow me to sign any contract. But everybody loved my stuff, and they used me, so I can't complain about that at all.
No.
I got to work Ring of Honor, a couple of years, even wrestled for the Ring of Honor World Title. So not too many guys can say they did that, but I got to wrestle at Hampton Coliseum twice, where I grew up since I was 7 years old watching
That's
wrestling.
awesome.
And I can remember telling my friends at 12 and 13, I'm going to wrestle here one time. You watch.
Right.
You watch. I'm going to do this. I always said I was going to be
that's
one.
Awesome.
And it was another cool thing about that moment was those 2 times in Hampton, they actually used my real name, which is Wayne Costle. And I got huge pops. And I even had a few fans and other local wrestlers tell me that they had security coming there telling them to quit cheering for the local guy. Supposed to be cheering for the WWE guy. So that kind of made me feel good too. But,
I would imagine so. Had a little extra.
So that's a basic little, rundown. Late start in the business, but once I got the ball, man, I took off with it and can't complain.
Well, let me ask you this, kind of in this exact same ballpark. The one thing we didn't talk about is, you've been a lifelong fan. You love it. Now you're a legend. All right. So who inspired you? If you had to narrow it down to one performer, one superstar.
I really can't say I can narrow it down to one. I was probably 11 or 12 when 2020 broke the secret. So yeah, I grew up babyface. I loved all the good guys, and then then I had a best friend that we went every time, and then we became the heel marks before heel marks were cool. And I remember Nikita Koloff made his in front of the crowd debut at Hampton. He came out with Ivan, had jeans on and a wife beater on. And we actually thought it was Road Warrior Hawk. We were like, oh, did Hawk turn heel? Oh, my God. But then, they announced it was Ivan's nephew. So the very next time they were in Hampton, me and my best friend was sitting front row with a Russian flag. That's heel mark.
That's awesome.
But 2020 broke the secrets, and I understood and learned what work rate was. So my favorites became people who still made me believe. My top 5 is Tully Blanchard, Barry Windham, Rick Rude, Jake Roberts, and Manny Fernandez. That's my top 5.
Wow. Okay.
because they all still make me believe.
Right.
I can watch every one of them wrestle, and they make me believe what they're doing in the ring or when they're on the mic.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you've been doing this a long time, right? How long do you plan on doing it for? How long do you feel like you can go?
When people used to ask me, I would say, I guess until I was in a wheelchair, and then I had to stop saying that because I was like, if I'm in a wheelchair, I'll find some way to be a part of it still. So I guess when I'm in the grave or cremated, that's the only way I'm going to stop. I mean, wrestling is me, and you know, it's like I've lost 2 marriages over this business. I lost relationship with my one and only biological son. I mean, we're talking now and all that, but he was only 2, 3, 4, 5 when I really started this. And I'll admit, and you know, I won't say I will honestly change anything, but I put wrestling way above family. And I wouldn't get a real job because I was scared I was going to have to work when I had to, you know. So I put some people through hell and misery. I understand that, but I mean, I'm living the dream, and now I got a wonderful woman that supports every move I make and stuff like that, and so that's awesome.
So, having been in the business as long as you have, what would you say is the biggest obstacle that you've faced in your career? We already said you started late. So
age. Say that right.
So age.
I mean, because like I said, everywhere that I've been, they've loved my work, but age.
Okay.
My tryout for WWE, they kept me in the ring and was feeding me people, and they were like, "Do you know why we did that?" And I was like, "No." And they were like, "Because we liked what we saw, and we wanted to see if you could adapt." And I was like, "Yeah." And then we talked more, and they found out how old I was, and it was like, "Oh man, are you serious?" I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "Man, I know how it is." Like I said, I play baseball. I know if I had millions, I'm going to invest millions in that 18-year-old phenom versus a 40-year-old vet. You know, so I understood. I can't hold no grudge or be PO'd at
Sure.
I get it. So in a career as long as yours, okay, there's a lot of moments that are going to stand out. There's a lot of moments you're going to remember. What would you say is the most or some of the most pivotal moments of your wrestling career?
The biggest memory will be wrestling at Hampton Coliseum. But business-wise, big moments would be winning the NWA national title. I mean, that's a title I grew up seeing many times being defended, and now to go and look at the record books and see Tully Blanchard, Dusty Rhodes, Wahoo McDaniels, Damien Wayne, that's pretty amazing.
Agreed.
And I can say I've had quite a few things that really happened to me in the business that would probably make the normal guy quit. And I'm not talking about injuries or anything like that. I'm talking promises of this and promises of that, and being stabbed or ripped out. And I'll give you an example. This will be the first time it's ever been spoken publicly, but when Adam Pearce and Colt Cabana had their match for that world title, I guess it was the final match of their series of 7, and Cabana won the belt, but he didn't want the belt because they were NWA put too much demands on him. Pierce didn't want it anymore because he wanted Cabana to have it because they were like best friends. So, long story short, they belts up for grabs. That big show in New Jersey where we had the 8-man blue hoo-ha-ha. Well, for 3 months, I was scheduled to win the NWA world title.
Wow.
And it blew up on the internet, and basically when they especially announced the 8 guys, it was unanimously everybody thought I was going to win. So I drive 8 hours through New Jersey only to walk into the building and walk right up to the P. I'm really not going to name names, but I walked in and I get the we're going to go a different way tonight. We're going to swerve the fans and put it on Cahagas. And I'm like, are you serious? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, they're like, everybody and their grandma knows you're going to win, so we're going to swerve the fans and put it on Cahagas.
Wow.
All right. So I get punished because the fans.
Because everybody,
Yeah. So, it's, I mean, I could be here all night with a few of those, you know what I'm saying? But it's,
Sure.
So I don't really, it hurt me, but then again, I don't, because I know all my peers and my true fans and whatnot knew that I should have been NWA World Champ. So.
I can imagine that would be something that would be a moment that you would absolutely remember. So, again, referencing your tenure in the business, there's a lot of obstacles and challenges that up-and-comers face all the time. For you, it's the age part. What advice would you have for someone who is trying to make it in the business of what to do to overcome those obstacles that are in front of you?
Like I tell them, for one, you got to travel. You got to put in the time. You got to, if you want people to know who you are or whatnot, like I said, you got to travel. In the work rate department, if they want to get to be better wrestlers, the way I trained my mind, it took me about 8 or 9 years to get to this point. And of course, when I first started, I was trying to be like everybody else. But I figured out, I learned that didn't work for me. So what I did was I trained my mind to where I have no move set. I have no ish to get in. I work off the crowd. I work off my opponent. And being lucky now to have somewhat of a name to me, it's not about me no more. I'm going, no matter what I do out there, I'm going to be over, if that's really what you would call it, over. So my job is to get the other guy over. You know, even if he's already over, it's still my job to. My main focus is him. You got to understand, it's the crowd and your opponent, then you come last. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of guys don't understand that. They think it's all about them and what fancy moves they can do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So work rate is just, don't be one-dimensional. Try to, definitely be able to adapt. And like I said earlier, traveling, you get to learn crowds. You can't take a Southern Memphis babyface versus heel and take that up north and try to work that in front of a Ring of Honor crowd that wants spots. You can't do it. It's not going to work. You can't take spots and go down there and work in Memphis style or Memphis crowd, because Memphis wants to cheer for somebody and boo for somebody.
Right.
And God, I've been there. I've tried to do it, and it don't work. I mean, I've been thinking that we're putting on a 5-star match and the crowd's sitting on their butt or just really not into it, you know. And so it's just so much more to this business to learn and understand than just getting in there and doing moves.
No,
I'm sure.
I believe that 100%. And like you said a minute ago, I'm sure we could sit here and go on for hours.
Oh, yeah.
Hours. And I think when we've been doing this, we've talked a little bit about this question I'm going to ask you already. But it really, it's not necessarily a monetary type question. So, the question is, how much have you invested in your own career, just in an effort to remain relevant, to reach relevancy and to remain relevant?
Well, today, right now, or even the last maybe say year or so, it hasn't really been where I'm, I used to be where if I didn't have a date filled or something like that, I was hustling. I was sending out stuff trying to get it. Now I kind of enjoy that time home. But going back to when I was really trying to stay relevant or build that name for myself, or to make money on the indies knowing that I'm never going to get that contract, I was gone. I just always gone. And like I said, both marriages was because I was gone. And I was feeding into that rock star lifestyle. And
sure.
I'm not going to say it was all me, but I would say 90% of it was me. But with both marriages, I was a piece of crap. And I'll sit here in a minute. It's hard not to feed into it, if you understand what I'm saying.
I can imagine.
Not a lot of people get to experience. So just trying to hustle and always gone and I try to be different. And that's the biggest way of trying to, for me, that I try to stay relevant. And like I said, now that I've gotten that name built up a little bit, I don't have to do it as backhand.
Right. Awesome.
So, one of the things that I'm curious about is the first time I've ever seen you perform was at the VCW show back in February.
Oh, wow.
And, we were only about a month into what we're doing now with these interviews and these podcasts. And there was a moment when you came through the crowd, before you ever walked on the stage, he was hooked and bought into your character and you hadn't even come out yet. It was just the music that got him. And then everything that you did in the ring was fitting for who you are based off of what you present as a character. Mm-hmm. So what led you to develop that style, that kind of roughneck, rugged style that really you've become known for?
Well, I've always, even from training, especially being trained by PQ and Phil, I was trained to be snug.
Right.
And I felt I enjoyed that. I wanted it back on me, and I'm going to give it back. And so it just, I guess being the 80s, growing up on the 80s, that's how it was. And Mid-Atlantic was known as the stiffest territory there was, so I got to watch that firsthand. And really, after a while being in the business, well, I was also one of the guys that kind of, even after I knew it was, if you said wrestling was fake, I was ready to fight you. I was ready to whip your ass.
We had that conversation on our way here tonight.
Literally just had that conversation.
And so I'm not going to have anybody sit in the crowd or sit behind that curtain and say my stuff looks like crap or looks fake. It's not going to happen. I'm either going to hit you and make it look good. And my motto back to you is, I'd rather you hit me than miss me. I'd rather sell you legitly, knocking the crap out of me, because
Fair enough.
Exactly. I'm going to protect myself. That's another thing guys don't understand is a lot of times you get stiffed, it's because you don't know how to protect yourself or take what they're given.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can't pull everything. We can't do it. You know what I'm saying? We can't do it. So, but the style and then now my style is, my bump card is getting very, very, very filled up. I'm getting older. So now I'm trying to take the selling from face down. I want to sell more and to where I'm taking less bumps. A la Terry Funk. I could sit there and watch Terry Funk all day, especially from 89 on up. Him and Flair and stuff. So that's just, you saw me as a baby face that night.
Right.
Wait till you see me now as a heel.
Okay.
It's a whole lot better.
I'm excited.
And so it's a lot Terry Funk. I got put over by Kevin Sutherland. He'd come to Kentucky quite a few times, and he put me over on every aspect, which totally blew my mind, work weight wise. Told me that my ring positioning was on point, stuff like that. But we were talking about Terry Funk stuff, and he was like, after you told me that, I went home and watched a lot of Terry Funk, and my God, if you ain't got him down to a T so bad that I even called him and told him about you. I was like, man, that means the world to me. Right there.
Wow. That's kind of big, right?
That's my whole thing now is trying to eliminate the bumps, because I used to always be about taking the big bump. And so now it's more selling and less bumping.
That's awesome.
Well, it's like he said, the night that you came out and we hadn't seen you, we weren't sure who Damien Wayne was yet. But just from the buzz that came out in that crowd that night before you ever came out, when the music hit, we knew we were about to see something,
Awesome. Appreciate that.
Pretty special.
Well, that's
and I'll tell you don't disappoint. Like I said, I looked at him and I said, I'm a fan.
Awesome. Appreciate that.
And we said that night that we wanted to have you on.
Yeah. We weren't sure that you didn't kill Chris Silvio with that pile driver at the end. But, I haven't seen anything like that since the Jerry Lawler days.
That was fast.
It was spectacular.
It was.
And that came from, Friday night of the week before was an accident in the match. Me and a guy was teasing me, trying to pull him up for the second rope power driver, and he couldn't hear me when I was bending down telling him what to do after I pushed him off. And when I pushed him off, he kind of just sat there for a hot minute. So I kicked him, and he bent over, and I said, just hopped on top of him and hit it. So I told Chris, I said, it kind of was an accident, so let's make it look like you really escaped out of it, but as soon as you landed on your feet, you're still bent over, and boom. Because power driver's been my finisher, that and the elbow, but I always hated the simple kick to the gut, boom.
Yeah.
So I always,
well, it's what you always see.
Yeah,
right.
So
Yeah.
I always try to find ways to float out of something or revert. I always ask the guy, "What's your finisher? What, and is it something I can float out of and land?" I mean, I've even did where we're doing the backslide, and I let the guy get me over, and I flip all the way over and land on my feet, and we're right there in the power driver position. Bam!
That's awesome.
So I try to be unique with my stuff. So
Okay. Always evolving, always
That's right.
changing. I like it.
So we've got a few minutes left, and what I want to know now is, of course, being sort of in the twilight of your time in the ring, what do you want people to take away from this?
Well, one thing, my reputation with the fans and every guy behind the curtain means more to me than anything I've ever did inside that ring. And I feel that from my travels, that I got a pretty good reputation. I got good respect by my peers, and that anytime that somebody see my name on the marquee, they know they're going to get a match. They're not going to get somebody. I don't care if there's 3 people or 3,000. I can't stand somebody saying, "Oh man, there ain't that many people out there. Let's take it easy." No, we ain't taking it easy, dude. When it's not going to happen. Those 3 to 20 people paid their hard-earned money too. They're going to get a show. Doesn't mean we got to go out there and bump and kill ourselves, but they're going to get a show. And I want people to say, hey, anytime I saw Damien Wayne, he never disappointed. And that means more to me than anything.
Yeah, I can tell you that there's no doubt in my mind that you're passionate about what you do. I think it's evident not only in your in-ring work, but just talking to you now. It's clear to see that it's a desire, it's a fire that burns inside of you.
Yes, very much.
And I don't think there's enough of you out there that have that same mentality, that appreciate the fans and the locker room and all the other aspects of the business that a lot of people don't think about. They buy their ticket, they come in, they sit down, they watch the show, they wear their T-shirts, which is great, but there's so much more to it. And we've had the ability to talk with several folks that have all talked about those environments. So I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure.
It's been great to have you on. I appreciate you taking the time to join us before the show got started tonight.
Awesome.
I'm stoked to see the Phil Brown matchup tonight. I'm looking forward to it. Just the way you promoted it at the first VCW show we were at sold me on it.
Awesome.
I mean, that was the conversation we had, was we have to be there.
We knew right at that moment we were coming tonight.
Good deal, then. I did my job.
So
Yes, you did.
Did
Yes,
my
you
job.
listen, man, I appreciate you taking the
Thank
time to
you
talk to
very
us.
much. Thank you
so
My
much.
pleasure.
And folks, this has been another episode of Through the Curtain. Our guest tonight, Damien Wayne. Again, thanks for joining us.
Thank you guys very much.
We'll see you guys the next time the bell tolls.